Hello everyone, welcome to URBONUS podcast. I'm the host Donatas URBONUS and I'm here with my colleague Rytis Vyšniauskas, and the amount of water in this glass shows how much time we spend for talking, let's say, in pre-podcast time. So I'm glad to have you here.
It's an emergency podcast, as we call it, because we are out of our usual schedule
You're
when
right.
we record
I
on
forgot
Mondays.
that.
But probably it's the best idea to record right now when there are still some fresh emotions from the Game 5 in Piraeus, also Barcelona, Bayern. So maybe our listeners will be more than happy to have this podcast.
Probably it will be one of the shortest
Thursday.
podcasts we had, because it will be focused mainly on these Game 5s and all the experiences.
Should be an interesting one, because really there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, because both games were like emergency games with some emergency situations, I would say.
Elimination games are always like this, even though your favorites, your underdogs, both teams.
And both favorites, they were pushed to ropes,
So
actually.
Usually when you're the favorite, it's more difficult to cope with the pressure. And I believe in some situations, the home crowd doesn't really help you. If you're struggling, if you're behind, sometimes the noise, the atmosphere can actually affect you negatively. It's up to the players to step up and show courage in these moments. And I definitely saw some players thriving under pressure. I mean, guys like Slukas or
I was so
Laprovitola.
surprised.
Laprovitola had his career best performance.
Yeah, but the way they started the game, I mean, Olympiacos guys, Mustafa Fall, instead of just dunking the ball easily, being under the basket, he was missing layups. I think that Slukas also made some not usual decisions for him.
In the first half, Slukas was really gone.
He was off.
Yeah, but the second half, he showed why he is one of the best.
We can start analyzing the game with knowing what had happened actually. Before the game, after the game. So let's just please start with KD in attendance for the second consecutive playoff game. And, you know, his appearance in these playoffs stuck to our minds so much that now you're dreaming about KD, right? You must tell us that story.
Well, I had a difficult night, first of all, really a very emotional night, because, as you know, I'm Team Pep Guardiola for life. So I was really hurt by yesterday's football events. So I didn't really go to sleep. I actually switched off my phone. I watched the Champions League without knowing the scores from Piraeus. And then in bed...
It was actually hard, probably.
Yeah. I just switched off the phone so that no one would text me. I wouldn't read anything. I wouldn't scroll anything, because if I go to Twitter, I will definitely see something. So I just switched off. And after football, I was, so depressed. I don't know what's the word. But then I still found energy inside me to watch Monaco and Oli. And after the game, I obviously was thinking about a lot of stuff. It was hard to sleep. And when I fell asleep, I had a dream about me, my brother, and my father being in our summer house, spending some time. And then there was a knock on the door, and it was KD. And he said, "Can I use your bathroom?" And it was Kevin Durant walking upstairs to use our bathroom. And I was just looking at my father and my brother and saying, "Guys, Kevin Durant is pissing in our summer house."
And summer house is not like probably a lot of foreigners imagine the summer house. It's not
really
on a beach.
small. It's a really small.
Lithuania is different.
It's a really small house, an old house near lake. It's basically for fishing purposes. but KD decided to stop there and use our bathroom. That's everything I can remember from my dream about Kevin Durant. He was really stuck in my head.
But he was also like dreaming in that game.
He chose the best EuroLeague series to follow for these two games, obviously, because of the quality and everything and the atmosphere. He shared those
Apocalypse videos.
Apocalypse videos, as he called them. And he said, like, in the NBA, if you bring a fire, you're going to get arrested.
That's true. But that's why that's why Europe is so unique.
Maybe some people should have been arrested in Greece as well for their actions. For a second, I thought, what a pointless job it is to be a steward in this game. Are you planning to contain the crowd from going there and celebrating? I probably think some of the stewards were celebrating together with everybody.
Sometimes all these stewards, they're also fans. I remember
Yes.
even in Panathinaikos game when I was visiting, like 20, 30 or 40 ultras came to media tribune because they were like killing PAO's football club's president because that something was going on. And Stewart was like just like this, standing on the corner, not looking what's happening. So
It is interesting sometimes to see these people in some big sporting events. You're thinking like they should be completely disinterested in sports in order to just look at a stance all the time and not look at what's happening on the court. For example, in like FIBA events, in Olympics and in FIFA World Cup, the rules are very strict. You cannot be off guard. You always have to be focused on your job. In EuroLeague, it's a home team. They're playing a home game. They're willing to pay the fines if EuroLeague will give them. They should probably.
I went to see the protocol of the EuroLeague, the officer of that game, because I believe it's going to be a very long list of different kind of fines.
So Kevin Durant witnessed people lighting fire in the stands. He witnessed people
invading the court twice.
The court twice. People sitting on the rim. People doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Booing him.
And he is playing in the NBA where the only emotion you get is, ref, you suck. Ref, you suck. Defense.
What a pressure.
Defense.
What a pressure.
No wonder there's a quote from Kevin saying that he would like to spend his last season in his career playing in Barcelona. I think after witnessing this playoff series, he could have more destinations
that
than
was
just
his
Barca.
quotes from 2019. And Saras wasn't the coach of Barca. So probably now watching Barca, I'm not so sure about Barca. Monaco, maybe.
He could find some interesting options if he wants to. All of us would be more than happy to see KD in EuroLeague. Doesn't matter if he's 36, 37, whatever. It would be something huge. Anyway.
Hey, that's a crazy idea, actually. Yeah. And if this series had any impact on his future decisions to try himself here...
KD's personal visit is actually a great promo for the EuroLeague.
That's the best promo.
Other NBA players... Obviously, they look up to Kevin Durant and they will talk with him. He will share his experiences. He will say some positive things about Europe, the atmosphere and everything. And maybe, who knows, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, we'll see more big-name NBA players taking a journey to Europe. Because it's not only about the money, it's also about the experience. These people, they're filthy rich. They want adventures. They want challenges. So, but... Okay, that's it about KD. Let's talk about the games, actually, one by one. I think we should start probably with Barca, because they played on Tuesday.
You sure about that? Because Olympiacos...
But let's leave the best for the last. Barca, Bayern, let's talk about them a little bit. You were there, so you should share some of your experiences.
It was a crazy trip, because I came on a game day. I took an early flight at 6 in the morning. And I left the following day also at 6 in the morning. So it was like a sleepless journey mostly. And what was funny, what also tells about this unique European experience, that as soon as we landed in Barca, it was bad flight, let's say. It was I had a connection in Warsaw, and then that was a Warsaw to Barcelona flight. And one fan hit me up. He recognized me. He was from Lithuania and said, "Oh, we came here to rescue Saras." And I was like, "Wow!" I remembered that I saw one guy in Jordan's hoodie, and I was definitely sure he was with his dad. I was definitely sure that they also came for the game. What was funny, that guy actually replied me on Twitter that I was there, and I calculated at least 10 Lithuanian fans in Palau Blaugrana, which is crazy.
There was a guy with Zalgiris t-shirt on camera.
That was even there was a guy with Lietuva hat.
In Greece.
This is
that
not
guy with Lietuva hat in Greece.
That guy in Barca was nothing, surprising compared to that guy with Lietuva hat sitting in the almost courtside seats.
But
in
dude,
Peace and Friendship
he could be a Greek person with Lietuva hat.
I doubt it. He had this Lithuanian looks.
In the last podcast, I was with an Argentina shirt. So does that make
you
me
think
Argentinian?
That there's another freak in Greece?
Don't you think there are people in Greece that appreciate Lithuanian basketball?
Maybe.
Maybe he's a Lithuanian. Maybe he's on vacation in Greece. And
Yeah,
he
in
just wanted to see
1995,
some-
Greeks were chanting Lietuva in the Eurobasket
I
finals
think
against Yugoslavia.
Lithuanians respect Greek basketball history as much as the Greeks respect ours. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't, because we had some great games against each other. We had some Lithuanian legendary players playing for Greek clubs.
Could be.
Although I'm just saying, I'm not
kind of
ruling
feeling
it-
that it was Lithuanian.
I'm not ruling it out.
Yeah,
but
because I know personally a couple of Lithuanians who went for the Monaco Olympiacos series.
okay. But Barca series, obviously, for many Lithuanians was the more important one, because the support Jasikevičius still has in Lithuania, especially in Kaunas, is huge. So no surprise that people were traveling to Barcelona
Yeah, to enjoy one of the greatest
game,
cities
and
in
at
Europe.
the same time
Yeah.
spend some quality
Yeah.
time maybe with their friends. So the game itself actually didn't went the way I thought it would.
Me too. I agree. I expected something like Zenit Barca last year. Okay, maybe not 30-point game, but something like solid
In the
win
first
from the
half, you
beginning.
could feel that some of Barca's players were not really coping with the pressure. Barca was suffering a lot because of Nikolaidis' inability to hit shots. And Bayern were really in a good position. They were leading by 6. Of course, they had some crazy shots by Yaramaz and all that stuff. But at the same time, you saw crazy energy from Otello Hunter.
I love Otello Hunter.
That alley-oop play.
Wow.
You couldn't say he's 35.
No, and I mean Trinchieri talked him out of retirement before the season. That's crazy. As crazy as it sounds, and he scored season high 18 points.
You cannot retire when you're still doing end one alley-oop plays.
He did everything. He did
Three-pointers.
and one alley-oop play. Yeah, 3-pointers. He was shooting threes like a shooting guard.
Corner freeze. I mean, he was hitting corner freeze like he's Brook Lopez all of a sudden.
In this series, he made 4 3-pointers, and in his entire 9-year career in EuroLeague, he hit 3.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. He was getting all these offensive rebounds. He was blocking shots, changing shots at the rim. I mean, he was super important for them to be in front in the first half.
So yeah, they were leading by 6. They had actually role players like Shishko performing well. They were in a good position. However, in a halftime, probably Saras made some good decisions and said some words to his team. He shortened the rotation, which was necessary. He went for Abrinas instead of Kuric, who was not feeling good.
Yeah, because he was sick in the hospital.
He was sick.
Yeah.
And Abrinas gives you more size, and he made some crucial shots.
Abrinas was
got some
great.
rebounds, defensive plays. Abrinas was great.
Very important impact from the second quarter.
He shortened the rotation, and he went with the lineup that can win the game. And what Nicolas Laprovitola did, I mean, Mirotic did what we expect from him, right? There's nothing sensational. Mirotic was
that's
good.
how the MVP should play every game in the playoffs.
What Nicola Laprovitola did, it's greatness of highest level. Nicolas Laprovitola was never considered a star player in Europe. He became a EuroLeague player late in his career.
Yeah.
We can remember him playing in Vilnius in mediocre Spanish teams. We can remember him being in the NBA because he's friend of Manu Ginobili and just getting some games on the Spurs roster, but he was never really NBA material. We remember when Real Madrid signed him, we thought like, well, he's a backup, but is he up to that level to play for Madrid? Then when Barca signed him, we also had doubts like, is he a player that Saras needs?
I mean, even before signing with Barca, he was in such a market situation where he was considering Zalgiris offer, and he decided to stay in the market, to wait for some offers, and that's where Barca offer came up.
At the age of 32. Now all of a sudden, the most important game of the season, Nicola Laprovitola played with so much flair, so much passion. I think it's a coincidence, but it just happened so that you had an interview with Navarro and he said that
Exactly.
Laprovitola is the most exciting player to watch on Barca team right now, and he kind of reminds me of myself.
And I saw that some fans, they were making jokes about it because for somebody it looked like some stupid thing Navarro said. But that was the first thing I thought about watching Laprovitola killing Bayern.
There were La Bomba type of plays. There were Steph Curry type of plays. There were deep freeze.
I mean, he scored 26 points, 5 of 7 threes, but I didn't see any open look 3-pointer, any easy shot. These were just typical Lapros bombs, unguardable shots like Navarro.
Driving to the left, finishing with the left hand, drawing fouls. outsmarting the opponents. We know that La Provitola sometimes he can be sort of chaotic, but in this game he was so focused on the task. He was the best player on the court, and Lapro and Mirotic were two players carrying Barcelona's offense because once again they faced an issue of not making shots. Bayern were taking smart defensive risks. They were giving away shots to Kalaitis. They were giving away shots to Hayes, and in the first half it worked. Bayern were leading 37-31. At the end of the day, we saw Barca also playing great defense. Bayern in the second half, they were living off crazy shots like Yaramaz, that buzzer beater, Obst, the buzzer beater free, Otello Hunter hitting two threes, but they didn't really create much. And the team probably reached their limits.
Of course. Playing game 5 against Barca, it's already over your ceiling.
This team they're heroes. For what they did. Bayern, they're heroes for what they did.
No doubt.
Barca players were obviously celebrating. It is something to celebrate when you reach a Final Four. It doesn't matter. You're the first seed, second seed, or whatever. You're the richest club in Europe. To reach the Final Four is difficult. They were celebrating, and it's well-deserved. But at the same time, you could see more of a relief in Barca's camp and a lot of pride in Bayern's camp. Trinchieri was so proud of his players. Otello Hunter, all the other veteran guys were so proud. It's amazing what they did. Really, hats off to Bayern.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wrote in my article, that there were no losers in this series. And when you think about it, to beat Bayern, I mean, for the first seeded team to beat 8th seeded team, which was playing without two players who averaged 31% of total team points, Barca needed career high from Nicolas Laprovitola. I mean, top-notch performance, incredible game, amazing performance, one of the best in the playoff Game 5 history of the EuroLeague. And Nikola Mirotic as well, scoring 20 points, which, okay, we said that it's how the MVP should play, but it turns out it was just his second ever 20-plus game in the playoffs. Because there were times that Mirotic was struggling, or he was just getting all this defensive attention. So they needed these factors to beat this Bayern team, and that's a huge recognition for all Bayern team, starting from a genius coach Andrea Trinchieri, then going to the sports director Daniele Boiesi, who built this team full of fighters, and of course, the GM Marko Pesic, who let's say put these people in the top positions. That's how the small market team should work. I mean, they hired the best people in the top positions, and that's where building the culture starts. I cannot imagine better coach for a small market team like Andrea Trinchieri. Daniela Boiesi is super creative sports director who always finds some interesting pieces, let's say underachievers, and making them overachievers. So it's just incredible. And what I loved the most about this Bayern, which you mentioned that, okay, Otello Hunter making threes, what the hell is that? Yaramas, all these 3-pointers. But in every situation, when we kind of felt that, it's over. I mean, there's no chance that Bayern will win, game 4. They are done. They already did enough, too much when they were capable of. And then Obst, for example, he scored like a career high 15 points. Then we see them containing Barca to 52 points in game 4 and extending the series to game 5. Game 5 comes. We thought that there was no chance. Yaramas starts making shots. Hunter, all the other guys. Nick Weiler-Bob.
Break points, second chance points.
Nick Weiler-Bob, he suddenly became the point guard of the team, and he was one of the most efficient players, averaging like 10 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 14 performance index rating. I mean, they always bounce back, and there was a great quote by Trinchieri saying that I told my my players not to leave any bullet left, and that's what happened. They used their all bullets and they fought like hell, and I think it's a big honor.
I think the only thing that was lacking in game 5, which could give Bayern a bigger chance to compete and maybe win the game, maybe snatch a win somehow, was points from Lucic and Rubit. Two very important players. There were no points actually from them. They didn't contribute in points. I'm not saying it's them to blame. Barca were playing some great defense.
Yeah, that's a great defensive team.
Was really...
he was always getting
he was really defended very well, right? And Rubit didn't have a lot of open, clean looks, but these are two players that really need to score points for Bayern to win games. At least 10 points.
But that's
or
what
something.
makes this team special. I mean, other players stepped up.
Yeah, they did, but I'm
every
just saying,
other
in this
game.
game 5, best case scenario, if you want to win, you still need something from Lucic, something from Rubic, some sort of contribution. You cannot expect Hunter to win games by hitting 3-pointers. At the same time, we're talking about Bayern's injuries, but let's admit that Barca had real problems. And Saras told you after the game, I mean, Kuric, Davis being in a hospital, Dante Exum getting injured. It was not an easy way for Barcelona, and maybe it's a lesson for them moving forward. Close the series earlier. If you drag it, you drag the series to game 5, anything can happen. Injuries, illness, anything can hit you. And when you have a chance, when you're leading 2-1, when you're the better team, this Barca team needs that killer instinct. They still don't have it, I think. I mean, they can win the Final Four. They can have an amazing season with a treble. But you still have that feeling they need the killer instinct to close series and to close games a little bit better.
How crazy it sounds when you have Mirotic, Kalaitis, Laprovitol, of course. Okay, Higgins is out. It's how crazy it sounds. By the way, talking about injuries, what do you think? How important is the fact that Dante Exum might miss the Final Four? At least what Saras told that he will likely miss from 2 to 3 weeks, which basically clashes the Final Four in Belgrade, which will be on May 19, 21st. What do you think? Is it like important factor for Barca? Because actually he was having difficult series, we have to admit.
If they will know from the beginning that he's not going to be there, players will be ready. They will be prepared. Alex Abrinas is in a great shape right now. And honestly, Dante Exum is a great player. I don't think his injury is a huge game changer for the upcoming El Clasico in the semifinals. Maybe Real Madrid will have some absences as well. I don't know. So they have players to pick. They have Abrinas. They have Kuric. Maybe Higgins he will be
should
back.
Have returned. So earlier, although he was out like for 3 months, and before he already missed a lot of time. So
I don't think it's such a big deal, honestly. Dante Exum's impact for Barca was huge when he signed for them.
He was a huge spark off the bench.
But right now, again, you're playing one game. Saras shortened his rotation to like 7 players in game 5. I expect him to do something similar in a semifinal or in a final. So, I think they'll cope with it. They'll be just fine.
Saras said another nice thing because he became the first man in the EuroLeague who made at least 3 Final Four appearances, both as a player and as a coach. But there were like nice words. He was saying that he wish he was playing in this game, or like he wish he was in Laprovitol's shoes. He was jealous, making such a big place in front of such an amazing crowd, because the atmosphere in Palau was really incredible, because it's the unique arena. The capacity of the arena of Palau is something around 7.5 thousands, but it's built for a great atmosphere. They have like some short roof, and even if there were like 9 German fans, and if Barca was struggling, they were on the roof almost. You could kind of easily hear them because of all the sound system, because of the roof. So even though for example, before the game, the arena was like half empty because it was pretty early game by Spanish standards, around 8 o'clock. So it took some time to fill all the arena.
I was so scared, like watching on television. There are 3 or 2 minutes until tip-off, and so many empty seats. I thought, for game 5, they're not showing up. What's happening? But in the middle of the first quarter, it was full.
I talked with our colleague Tomas Ramanskas. He's a Lithuanian journalist working here. He said that it's just too early because people in Barca, they're still working at the time. But it was a season record crowd, 7.4 thousand people with just a few empty seats. Great atmosphere. It was a hell of a pleasure to witness that game 5, to see all these emotions from both teams, because as I said, there were no losers. There was a great pride of both teams, and that's how the series should have ended. But what's the best that it was so intriguing to watch.
I have an interesting question finishing about Bayern.
Okay.
Do you think they will find energy within themselves to approach what's left in the Bundesliga? Or do you think that Alba Berlin will have a legit chance
I
to
think that
again
they
be
have
the
a
German
legit
champions?
chance, really, because I think that now they're currently in the third place, and I think that they still have 3 games to play. One of the last teams to finish the regular season in Germany. But this thing is that there is no difference how will they've played these rest of the games. They will meet the same opponent. It doesn't have any difference. But watching them have all these injuries, okay, Corey Walden might come back, but after going through 3 COVID outbreaks, with all these injuries, Hillard is out, players probably were washed up after the series. It's gonna be hard for Alba. It's a great chance
recover mentally and to prepare
and especially
yourself for
when Alba had such a great season in
they're
the
a good
EuroLeague.
team.
They
They're
have
a
a
good
good
team.
potential to win it all. So I'm kind of concerned for Bayern because probably it's that market where, okay, they did good in the playoffs. They did an amazing job, but probably ownership, they would like to see them celebrating the German
title. It's nice
title.
to be German champions, right? It's nice to win a cup. But in a bigger picture, making the EuroLeague playoffs is...
It's clear for us.
More important.
Of course, but from German side, even the last year, I've heard some, people saying that if the German boss said that, okay, your goal is to make to win the German title, and okay, you can be competitive in the regular season of the EuroLeague, even though you make the top 8 playoffs and you don't want the championship,
This is why I don't like the situation.
Countries.
I don't like the
Different
situation
approach.
in European basketball. This is why I don't like it. The stakes are not high enough for the national championships. You lose the finals, you're still in the EuroLeague, you're still gonna be there in the elite division. It doesn't affect your future at all if you lose the German League finals. I don't
can
like
talk about it for hours.
We've
probably.
talked about it
tough.
before, but I'm just saying, like, now the EuroLeague season ends. Even those teams that compete in the Final Four, after the Final Four, they still have these playoffs. I think it's not a good situation for everybody, fans, players, coaches, but whatever.
We all know that. Yeah,
Whatever, let's move on. Olympiacos, Monaco, another Game 5.
Another underdog, let's say, lower seeded team being up in the second half.
I never had a feeling, actually, they're going to win this game, to be honest.
I was a bit concerned, actually.
I never had a feeling. And when they were on the court with Mike James for fouls and with Donatas Motiejūnas, they just could not defend at all.
No, that foul by Paris Lee, when he fouled out, that was a crucial moment. I mean, after that, Lucas, in the following 4 minutes, he scored 10 points. Well, he was on fire because there was nobody to guard them. These players with 4 fouls.
Dorsey also made some pretty easy buckets. Probably the game didn't go Olympiacos' way because if you're Oli, you want to reduce the score. You don't want to race with Monaco in points, like finishing on 90, close to 90 points. Olympiacos, I expected something more like Game 1 when they only conceded 57 points, something like that. But it didn't really go as planned. And one of the key reasons, out of nowhere, Jakubau Tara hitting shots.
Like almost 5 3-pointers in the first half.
He was a player in the rotation for defensive purposes to cover 8-10 minutes guarding Thomas Walkup. He started hitting spot-up shots, and it changed everything. And
Paris Lee also joined him. So
Paris Lee hit a lot of shots, but from Olympiacos' perspective, the good thing is that others responded. Shaq McKissick, what a crazy first half performance. Thomas Walkup, again, amazing. Even when Lucas was struggling, they were hanging in there because McKissick and Walkup, with their energy, they were feeding everybody in the building, actually.
I mean, McKissick kept them alive in the second quarter. He scored 16 points, but the rest of the guys, they were really struggling to catch up Monaco offensively.
What a difference it actually makes when McKissick hits some 3-pointers.
Yes.
Because when he doesn't hit them, you can...
You can taking risk on them.
Yeah,
I mean, you could obviously see
a whole series, and there were games where it worked.
Yeah,
but when he's not hitting shots, you can think McKissick being on the floor is good for the opponents. But when he made some buckets, it just unlocked the door for him to do all stuff that he likes. Open court plays, and one plays, driving to the paint, finishing with contact. He was just dominating and keeping them in the game for a certain period. Walkup, I don't even have words for him, what he did in the series. He's the series MVP for me, actually. I know there were big performances and big shots by Slukas, by Vezenkov, the 3+1 over Will Thomas, but Thomas Walkup is the MVP of the series, honestly.
I agree with you. I really agree with you because he was working on double shift. Not only he was, I wouldn't say stopping Mike James, because probably it's impossible to stop him, but he was containing Mike James to 17.6
putting
points,
down his numbers.
but his shooting percentage was only 34 on 13.6 shots per game. So this is what you can afford, having, this player scoring almost 18 points. And the most importantly, that he was also making shots offensively. He was averaging 11.2 points per game. He was the first best scorer of Olympiacos team in the series, adding 3.4 assists, the 12.6 performance index rating. And he has the best plus and minus in the entire series. So, I mean, he was doing everything he could, even probably going over his limits, making important shots, 7 points in a row. I think it was the third quarter, stealing all these balls. I mean, I already loved him in the regular season. He was just making 3-pointers in a terrible percentage, something like 23. But now he improved offensively, and finally people starting recognize his true value to the team, and we're not even discussing his off the court values he's giving to the team.
I think Hassan Martin's comeback was also important. The pick and rolls with Hassan Martin are much better than with Jean-Charles, for example. Hassan Martin is a better player on defense as well, in pick and roll defense situations. So Hassan Martin actually gave them some very good minutes. Not everything worked out in Mustafa Fall's favor in this game. He's one of those players that always has the size advantage, but in this game, he seemed like mentally he wasn't there.
As I told you, he was missing open dunks.
Yeah.
So probably set the tone for his entire performance.
Hassan Martin being back was a huge thing for Olympiacos, actually. I think Monaco should not have any regrets. They had a great journey in this season's EuroLeague.
No.
With a deeper squad, with better defense,
the more balanced squad,
they could have beaten one of the best EuroLeague teams at the moment. But right now, we have to admit, it's a very well-deserved Final Four for Olympiacos. They've been waiting for it 5 or 6 years. What was that? The last time when they played in the Final Four?
Since years, and they were not winning it. Yeah, something like that.
For a while, there were no Greek teams in the Final Four, and actually for a couple of years, there were no Greek teams in the playoffs. So people started talking about the Greek clubs being in decline. But
if you remember, when Thomas Walkup joined Olympiacos, and in one of his first interviews, he said something like that, with Olympiacos, I will have a better chance to win. And people in Lithuania, they were making jokes about it, because Olympiacos at that time, they were not so far away. I think that Zalgiris was even higher.
Last season, Zalgiris got 2 wins against Olympiacos.
And I think that they were higher in the standings.
Zalgiris were 17 wins and 17 losses. Oli was somewhere lower. And yes, I remember the mood within Lithuanian basketball fans. Doing? People were talking, okay, if he signed for Efes or Milan or Barca, he's going to the Final Four probably, but he signed for Oli. He has the same opportunities with Zalgiris. That was the actual mood at the moment when he signed. But then other signings followed, like Dorsey and other players, and you saw the team playing in the regular season. They were actually great. And in this series, some could say they had more problems than expected, but you just have to respect Monaco. You have to respect talent. Monaco is a team based on pure skill. And Mike James, I don't care about his shooting numbers. The effort that is required from the other team to at least prevent him from scoring easy buckets, to just guard him for 40 minutes nonstop is, I mean...
And it creates so many opportunities for others.
It's ridiculous, honestly. Again, he was 2 from 10 shooting threes, but he had a lot of assists. He had a double-double, 24 points, 10 assists. He was trying to keep his team in the game. I read some comments on Twitter, for example, criticizing Mike James for this performance. Come on, man. He was the leader of the team. He was there. He showed up. they lost to a better team. That's it. I think you should appreciate both teams in this case. And I loved Mike James on Twitter when he just said, congratulations to Olympiacos. They are great. I will cheer for them in the Final Four. That's the way you should approach things like this. You lose the playoff series, you give respect to the other team.
It's incredible when you think of Monaco building the team basically in the end of September. I mean, all these different pieces, all these, let's say, wild cards, high risk moves. It looked like, I mean, there.
Just imagine where would they be without James, Will Thomas, and Bacon.
Probably at the bottom of the standings. I mean, really. Well, I mean, I'm talking about with 14th seed, something
with
like
Leo Westerman running the show, with all the respect, he got a lot slower than he was in his best days. Yeah, they would be near Pau, Zalgiris, and these other teams.
And, you know, there are these big projects, sometimes like Partizan, Virtus, other big teams. And, you know, one of the most common excuses is that, even though we have some big names, big money, and big projects, it still takes a lot of time. We have to build for it for like 2-3 years. And now we have Monaco, team coming from nowhere. They weren't even supposed to play in the EuroLeague. Somehow they won the Eurocup. They had all these investments before the season. Some luck, I would say, on the market. When you got Mike James from nowhere, he was under contract with CSKA. Will Thomas the same with Unix. And now they're building the team completely from scratch. Even looking the way they play, the way the roster is built, you can clearly miss some players who could share the ball, who could play better defense, better organized basketball.
That is why they brought Sasha Obradovic.
That's true, but
in the middle of the season.
Coach, he made a lot of great adjustments, but still that team was missing all these, let's say, European basketball qualities.
Yes.
And still, they managed to be few shots away from making the Final Four. It's just incredible.
There were two very different schools of basketball facing each other. Olympiacos is sort of an academic team ran by classic point guards, team basketball, not necessarily based on skill and individuality. And Monaco is more of an American team. But when they faced each other, it was something great, really. And I have to appreciate both teams. Monaco, as you said, they were like 7 points away from making it to the Final Four in the club's first season. Who knows what they will have next year? Who knows which players will stay? The Mike James situation is probably difficult because right now he's still on a contract with the payroll.
I think
from
they
CSKA a little bit, right?
The payroll, both CSKA and Monaco.
So you could imagine for him to stay. Okay, one thing, you tick the box. Monaco will be in the EuroLeague. That's very important. Mike James seems to be quite happy there. These are good things, but do you know his pinned tweet on his Twitter account?
No discounts.
No discounts on my services.
That's the issue.
There won't be any discounts. And now if you have to cover his full payroll, what are we talking about?
And
2 million euros?
Why Mike should take any discounts after the season where he was in an MVP race and where he put his team on the game?
There will be interesting moves on the market. For example, if Shane Larkin is moving and the Colo is moving, a lot of players, guards are moving, switching teams. Mike James could have great offers, so definitely he's not going to do any discounts. I would like him to stay in Monaco.
Yeah. And
it looks like a good fit, at least for now.
It's hard to understand his priorities right now because even in Joe Orlowska's podcast, he said that he has like 1-2 years left. So
I just hate hearing all these talks. For example, Kyle Hines talking about retirement, Otello Hunter retiring, Mike James, I'm going to retire. I'm being selfish, obviously, because I love watching them compete.
Yeah.
For them,
and we don't know what they're going through.
It's different if they don't have anything to prove. They already feel sorted and happy, and they want to live life.
Or they're just tired of everything
outside of basketball. So it's fine, but watching them play, it's unfair if these guys are going to retire.
It's unfair to
when
basketball.
Paulius Jakunas is retiring, or Navarro was retiring, or Reyes was retiring, it seemed natural.
Yeah.
They declined.
Even though Navarro wanted to play that 1 year.
Well, thank God he didn't, because honestly, the last season was not good. But, I mean, these guys got the proper respect all over Europe when they retired, but they retired at the right time when they were declining. These players I'm talking about, they're not declining. I understand the philosophy. I will retire when I'm still great, because I don't want to look in the mirror thinking, man, I used to be a baller and now I just cannot do all these things. But Mike James, I think he still has 4 or 5 years in him, not like 1 or 2. He seems like he's taking good care of himself, doesn't have a lot of bad injuries or something. I don't know. So
yeah, a lot of depends on Monaco as well and their financial capabilities. From what I've heard, they will increase their budget, but different from what was reported on Eurohoops, at least as far as I heard. I mean, Eurohoops reported that they might increase their budget for salaries only up to 18 million euros, which would make them like top 5, top 6 team in the EuroLeague. But from what I've heard, it's not true. And at the best case scenario, the total budget should be around 18 million euros. And considering that some tax moments, let's say tax nuances, the payroll would increase somewhere up to 8 million euros. So it's nothing significant, let's say, especially when you have to keep not only Mike James, but for example, Alpha Diallo, who was making like 160,000 euros.
He is underpaid.
One of the most underpaid players.
For what he delivers, he's
if they want to keep, I mean, Donta Hall or Donatas Motiejunas, one of them should stay. They will have to pay because there's no way that Motiejunas will decrease his financial demands less than 500,000 euros. Or Donta Hall, I mean, he was signed for also not a lot of money. So there are a lot of players that if they want to have any kind of continuity, they will have to increase their payroll just to keep the players. And I'm not even talking about some other signings. Although my colleague Horacio Kauki also reported it and also heard that they're after John Brown. And
everyone's after John Brown.
That's true. But what I like that, that's what I'm saying about trying to find players who could help you to find some balance on your team, talking about defense especially. So John Brown is a team player, defensive-minded player, energy guy. So they had this year enough of scorers. So they should make this more like a complete team.
With this roster that they had right now, not much is needed. If you could replace players like Brock Modem, maybe Danilo Andjušić with tougher players, better defenders, and add more depth.
And it's hard
Alpha
to predict.
Diallo is healthy, so you would have a good roster.
I'm not sure about Will Thomas, although he was great in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he was declining. I mean, you could clearly see the decline of his player. I mean, all the respect.
But if John Brown replaces Will Thomas, you're upgrading anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And you're finding a better stretch
if you can afford it.
Yeah.
Because other teams will also want John Brown to sign for them. So, but one thing is for sure that Sasha Obradović has an extended contract, so you're kind of safe. You saw what he can do with the EuroLeague team that has a lot of talent. Sasha Obradović to me seems like very untraditional Serbian coach, even though he's strict, right? He has all these usual qualities, but
he was labeled as a strict coach.
He seems to me like somebody who really appreciates American way. I remember, for example, in Zvezda, the way Kevin Punter was playing with so much freedom before Sasha Obradović was fired, you could see that he's actually trusting the skilled American more than the local guys in certain situations. And it looks like he loves to coach these very skilled American players that obviously have personalities, but it doesn't really bother Sasha Obradović that Bacon or Mike James has these, let's say, difficult personalities. For other coach, maybe he would be in Zvezda Mitrovic's situation.
He made some adjustments. He became more flexible, I would say, because with everything what Bacon did, for example, this year, it's even hard to imagine that he stayed in the team until the end of the season. But yeah, I see your point. He's really trusting his scorers. First and foremost, he gave keys to Mike James because probably that's the only way when you have Mike James playing in a team like Monaco. So he made some good, let's say, mental moves. Trying to regroup this team.
The problem is if you're staying with, let's say, Mike James and Paris Lee, and I really love Paris Lee, but they had to play with them together on many occasions in the series because Leo Westermann was really just too slow. When you're playing with Mike James and Paris Lee, you're undersized.
Although, okay, Paris Lee kind of...
he has a lot of energy. He puts a lot of effort in defense. It's sort of like...
And he was just chasing Slukas all the series and
I'm
made
not
his
a
life
big
tough.
fan of playing undersized lineups. I think when you have one small player, for example, you have Shane Larkin, but his star colleague is a tall point guard, Vasilija Micic. And playing with two small guys, for example, can you imagine like Scotty Wilbekin and Shane Larkin being together? I don't think it would be a great idea. So
what point guard, what floor general you see next to Mike James?
I'm just thinking
Paris
that
Lee?
You need somebody like, well, Lorenzo Brown is the best case scenario, obviously, a tall, athletic point guard. But
he should be free.
Yeah, but you can have Mike James as the ball handler and a shooting guard like Darren Hillard, for example. Why not?
But I'm still missing the true floor general.
Mike James is a floor general. And then you have somebody as a
but
backup.
he's always a score first guy. I want some creator.
24 points, 10 assists, creating.
Because he has ball in his hands all the time.
So why not? It works.
I don't know. I just need one guy on my backcourt rotation.
I'm just thinking about more size. I don't think this team has problems with creativity.
I'm thinking about guy like Thomas Walkup, for example, who could tick all these boxes defensively and offensively.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Lorenzo Brown,
Nick Weiler. Okay, Lorenzo Brown is off the charts.
If you can sign players like this.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
But I would be more than happy to have Darren Hillard as a shooting guard, pure shooting guard, next to Mike James. They play together in Moscow. I just want to have more size. Size actually is very important in modern day basketball, and when you can have size from second position up to fifth, and you can switch, you can hide your point guard being a little bit smaller. It's not such a big issue. But when you're playing with Mike James and Paris Lee, well, you're suffering in some situations, and when they get in foul trouble, it's a huge problem. So yeah, every coach actually is looking for size these days. When we're talking about centers, you want those mobile centers. That's why Donta Hall and Josh Nebo are looking very exciting on the market right now. And big, tall forwards that can guard multiple positions. Everybody wants to have them. And if you can have a tall shooting guard, even better. So that's my general idea. And this is no disrespect to Paris Lee because he's a great player. And he puts so much heart on the court. I love it. But just sometimes when you're building a team, you have to think about what works and what doesn't.
You know, what I will be missing after this series, I just wanted to see where we have Papanikolaou and Bacon's rivalry developed. Because that was something crazy. I mean, when fans invaded the court, I tried to, let's say, make my own random calculation. I thought that it was something close to 2,500 people on the court at one time. But anyway, when these fans invaded the court, I was a bit concerned about Bacon because I thought that somebody gonna stab him, either Papanikolaou or somebody else, because that was huge rivalry through the series.
But it looked like the fans were more focused on celebrating the success of their own team.
They were great. I tried to analyze all this invasion at one moment today, just before the podcast. And I tried to watch the reactions of both team players, and it was crazy because Mike James, he left being in the center of the court when all the fans, for the first time, they invaded the court. He was just like resting, putting his hands on his knees. He was just resting, and the moment he, put his head up, there were like almost 1,000 people on the court, and everybody went for Olympiacos players to celebrate together with them. But there was one guy who kind of, approached Mike, said something like, "Good game, good serious, Mike. No offense." Although he was booed by Olympiacos fans, but
former power player, it's normal.
Yeah, and I agree.
The rivalry between Papanikolaou and Bacon it was like a series within a series. You can remember multiple fadeaway shots from Bacon, some successful, some not. But you will definitely remember Papanikolaou's chase down block.
It was so personal. It was so personal.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me all these stories that happen in the NBA when guys like PJ Tucker or Lance Stevenson try to get under somebody's skin. And you can treat Bacon as a star player offensively, and all those mind games, they're pushing each other, pushing and shoving. I want to think that they respect each other's game. But when you're competing on the floor, you're not making friends there. They're enemies, so you want to beat them at all costs. But I respect Papanikolaou's defense as much as I respect Dwayne Bacon's offense and his mentality.
No, it was a great rivalry to watch, really. And going forward to the Final Four, I'm really happy that we will have at least one team with such a huge fan base. I mean, I expect thousands of Olympiacos fans in Belgrade, because we have to admit that other teams, they don't have such a tradition. I mean, Efes, they always have a big
Turkish
crowd.
Fans will be there.
Home, but it's different than having Fenerbahce in the Final Four. I'm just not sure how many fans of Efes will go to Belgrade.
It is different, but I believe there will be plenty of Turkish
I think that
supporters.
it will be like Olympiacos fans, they will be dominating the stands. Then we will have Efes. And unfortunately, Real Madrid fans, Barcelona fans, these teams won't get that much support. But, El Clasico is already a very exciting thing. So I'm kind of very intrigued about these pairs, having El Clasico in one side and then having this Ataman predicting winning another cup and this underdog team, Olympiacos, I would say. I have some interesting feeling that they might repeat what they did with Spanoulis.
Maybe preseason underdog, but after what happened in the regular season,
yeah, of course. I mean, the preseason underdogs, kind of Cinderella story.
Well, two different teams will be facing each other, but after what Thomas Walkup did with Mike James and all the other guys defending crazy, I don't have any reason to not believe they can do the same again against Misic and Larkin. They will face a very spirited team with a lot of warriors and players willing to sacrifice their bodies. So it's going to be great. And El Clasico, well, itself, it's a big rivalry. I don't know if we ever had an El Clasico in a Final Four.
I think we had. I
don't remember, honestly. I cannot.
And I have a feeling that maybe Saras was playing for Barca. I don't remember which one. Maybe it was Turkey or London, but I think that Barca lost in the semifinals, and maybe that was even that final when Olympiacos beat Real Madrid. I
have some very blur memories, but not sure. Okay, anyways,
it doesn't make any difference.
It's a big rivalry. It doesn't matter that it's a Spanish rivalry.
Yeah.
There might not be as many fans as, for example, the Greeks or the Turkish people, but
but still, anyway, Serbians, they love basketball, so again, they will come to the arena.
Barca, they've won all the El Clasicos so far this season. All the games were kind of different, but
most of them they were close, so
they always found a way.
Going to be exciting.
They always found a way, and you're sitting there thinking that it cannot last forever. There should be a game that Madrid will take. Why not in the semifinals?
Why not in a single game format?
Semifinal? It's an even bigger stage than Copa del Rey final, obviously. And in Madrid, they should not be afraid of Barcelona right now. They had a very good series against Maccabi. They should go in there with a lot of confidence. But at the same time, Mirotic got a question on EuroLeague TV after the game. So Madrid is waiting for you, and he just responded, "Yeah, and we're waiting for them." So it's gonna be a great Final Four.
I'm really hyped up about these players, about the Final Four.
You're gonna be there, right?
Yeah. I'm going to Belgrade, and we will do the Final Four preview podcast in the Final Four week. The only bad thing about it, we're so excited. We witnessed this amazing atmosphere yesterday. Bayern, Barcelona series were great. But the worst part is that we had this great semifinal, Valencia and Virtus.
I honestly
crazy.
Only today before the podcast checked the score.
So unfair.
Found out that Virtus won.
To make
there was
these
so
games
much
at the
happening
same time.
last night. I even forgot that there's Eurocup action.
It's so sad, really, because these teams. That pairing, at least, that was worth the final of the Eurocup. And who watched that game? Valencia fans and Virtus fans. Probably.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Because it was at the same time like Olympiacos played. So, yeah.
either way, Virtus, doesn't matter they played good or bad, they made it to the final.
Mm.
And they're going against...
I had concerns about
they're
them.
going against underdogs,
Yeah.
Bursaspor.
About, against Pitbulls. So
Yes, but
they should win it.
they should. At the same time, you never know what's going to happen, but they made it. They didn't play great basketball, but they made it to the
Sometimes
finals.
you don't need to play great basketball. Sometimes you have to play winning basketball when it's needed.
Especially when you're playing a knockout format, best of one. So it's like national team tournaments. So many times we saw teams struggling in the group stage, but then clicking in the quarterfinals and fighting for medals. So the stuff can happen. Like the Final Four. Nobody cares right now that Real Madrid were in a deep hole during the regular season. Nobody cares how many El Clásicos they've lost so far.
And nobody cares that Barca had difficult series.
Now it all depends on
from
one
zero.
single game. One single game.
And
anything can happen.
It's so freaking sad that after experiencing these great series,
You
we will
would
have
want
only
more.
3 games.
Yes, you would want more series, but again, for EuroLeague to have semifinals and finals, best of 5, a lot of things should be different on the basketball calendar. It's impossible to match. I mean, it would look awkward when a team, for example, plays a game 5 of a EuroLeague semifinal series on Wednesday, and then they're playing a game 5 of National League quarterfinals on Saturday. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and that's how it would be, because having semifinals and finals in the best of 5, it's like having probably even 10 games. So where you could put these additional 10 games. Anyway,
I will see. Still, we have great teams in the Final Four this season. I think all the favorites won their series. I mean, the favorites according to bookies, for example.
Yeah.
All of these teams were favorites. FS, Barca, Oli, Real Madrid. So no huge upsets, but at the same time we were close to some.
Yeah, so it was exciting.
Last year we had 3 game 5s. This year we had 2 game 5s. Maybe next season we'll see a true Cinderella story, like Zalgiris was going to the Final Four. Who knows? But it's nice to have these really competitive playoffs.
Rytis Vyšniauskas, Donatas Urbonas. Follow us on BasketNews.com website and also BasketNews.com YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for watching. We're taking some time off, a week off.
Because there's nothing to talk about.
EuroCup final next week, May 11. We will talk about it.
Okay, we will include it in our Final Four preview.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
So see you before the Final Four.